make it feel like you're in a meeting with your friends at Curated who teach you things about how to make your newsletter better and host cool events like Newsletter Fest. All right. You are the host now. Seth, you have the power.
Cool.
And we are 1 minute from go time. So, hurrah. I'm going to check the Slack. Somebody just sent me a goofy video through LinkedIn DMs.
Ooh.
Somebody I don't know.
Yikes.
Okay. All right. We are right at 5 o'clock.
Wade is ready.
Wade is in the house, in the
Guys,
Zoom. He's in the Zoom.
Guys, I'm in the Grand Hyatt in Playa del Carmen, Mexico with my fun shirt on. This is a Thursday.
Love it.
You're making those of us who already have children and cannot go back in time and be digital nomads a little jealous. Just gonna let you know, okay?
Sorry.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I can't commit to like travel, work, and homeschool. Like one thing's got to not happen. So, all right, welcome back. I see some familiar faces in the crowd. I'll give you the ground rules. We just pushed this forward to YouTube. So it is running live on YouTube and it is being recorded. When Seth records it, he'll record it in speaker mode so we can catch people's faces when they say amazing things. But if you're uncomfortable being on the YouTube version, just go ahead and hide your face and we will make sure that that is not up. I will be taking questions in the chat. If you have them, drop them in there. Caitlin is with us today, so she might be like typing a response, but we may talk through some of them as well. And I would love to like open the floor and get you on and let you ask your question in person if you are comfortable with that. But if you're not, we will ask it for you. Newsletter Fest. Quick announcements. We have a Slack community that Seth is dropping the link to right now. That I'm super excited about. I got like over 100, I think it's like 130 newsletter creators in there right now, chit-chatting back and forth and connecting. And that is intended to do the thing that you don't normally get to do at online events, which is continue to connect with the people that you met at a convention or something, right? So we are live on YouTube in meeting mode, and we have a Slack community that we would love for you to come join us in and continue to connect in after the event is over. We also have 2 contests going on. One is to win a free year of Curated. You just go in, start an account, mock up a newsletter, enter it in the contest, and send all your people on your email list to go vote for you, or all the people in your social following to go vote for that. And the winner will be announced Friday. There are 3 grand prize winners, actually, and less than that many entries at this time, unless I am wrong. Seth, have you checked in on that recently?
I haven't checked today, but
okay. That's
3
a great,
seems like a solid number.
That's a good way to win something, people. All right. Then in addition, we have top newsletters of the year voting going on. Those will also be announced Friday. We crowdsourced the nominees. Great newsletters. That's the link to go vote for them. If I were you and I had a newsletter, which I do, I would also go to look at these and stalk them, right? Because these are newsletters that obviously people nominated and might be good for you to go get ideas from. That's all I have in terms of launching this session of Newsletter Fest. Please keep the questions coming and know that we're on YouTube and know that we would love for you to ask your questions out loud. So this session, Advanced Link Collecting, how to curate like a pro, and it's brought to you by the Curated team. Same people bringing you Newsletter Fest. We are going to start with general advice about link collecting, then hop into a newsletter in Curated and show you how to curate those links in the software. And then we were going to show you some ways that you can automate link collecting through connecting Curated with some other really cool software. So first thing I want to tell you about is that you need to decide on keywords you might want to follow. So if you came to the content strategy session, you might have thought about the topics you want to cover. Right now, I want you to think like a search engine and think about the key terms that your audience cares about that you want to write about and what those keywords and phrases are that you want to be covering, right? And so there's this really cool thing, if you've never been to it, I've been using it for years, called Google Alerts. And that's alerts.google.com. And you can, for free, go in if you have a Google account, which I don't know many people who don't have some sort of reason to have a Google account, but you can type in like your keywords that you want Google Alerts for, and keywords and phrases, right? And then you can also put in your competition, maybe like, or your name if you want to see how often you're coming up on Google. I have my CEO's name in there because I want to let him know if he's ever in the news, right? But you can set the cadence at which you want to receive these alerts, and you will get alerts through email. So my recommendation there is if you are doing like multiple terms, like I have like 15 terms, do not set that to deliver to your email once a day. That's 15 emails a day from Google. You don't want that, right? What you want is something that's a digest that you can go through anytime you're ready to go through it. And I use like a day or two before my newsletter is going to go out to go catch up on the Google alerts. And the way I do that is I go through each term and I scroll through the past 7 days, right? And I'm just looking, there's going to be a lot of junk in there that you do not care about that is not quality. You're looking for the quality stories or headlines that you think might be relevant to the people you are writing to. So people in a specific industry that you have chosen this keyword for, or people who are interested in a specific topic. And then you click through that link. And if you read or skim the article and you think this is a possibility for your newsletter, it depends on how much time you're going to give. Are you going to decide right then, is it good for your newsletter? Or are you going to like put it into your collected links and then start picking and choosing and deleting, which is what I do. And so I will use the Chrome extension at that point. So I go to Google Alerts, I go to the keyword term, and then I get to the page, I collect it and put it in with the Chrome extension, and I move on. So this is like maybe maybe like a 30-minute activity for me on Tuesday if the newsletter goes out on Thursday, just to catch up. And then I might go back in on Wednesday evening just to see if there's some brand new news that has made it through that I should go think about adding in. So Google Alerts, the quick free way to search or to keep up with keyword terms. It's not necessarily the cleanest software out there, but it's pretty easy to know, like, okay, last 7 days, scroll, look through the junk, push in what you want, and be done. But that is not the only thing I want you to go do. I want you to also go subscribe to newsletters. Newsletters that you think your audience would be interested in, or newsletters you're interested in. And this is going to be more of a non-time blocked thing because you are probably going to read the newsletter the day it comes out. And so that might be a daily newsletter, that might be a weekly newsletter, etc. But if you are subscribed to it because you are interested in keeping abreast of a certain topic, then you subscribe, the newsletter comes, you see a link that they have curated or a story that they wrote that they include in their newsletter. Like some people I follow, is their newsletter is really just their blog, right? Like it's an alert that they have posted a new blog, like Spark Toro does that. And I want to go check out that blog. So I go check it out. I may or may not collect that link. So when I am getting newsletters in my Gmail and I am on my computer, I tend to use the Chrome extension. When I am on my phone, I tend to do the thing on an iPhone where you just are on the website and you use the share button, like the rectangle with the arrow. And because I don't have the shortcut set up, right? But to me, it's super quick and easy to just share it via email and type in opt, like I type OP and it knows opt-in weekly, the secret email address I have because I've saved it in my Gmail account. And then off it goes and it's waiting for me in my collected items. You could use the shortcut. I wish I could explain it to you. I haven't installed it on my phone. I hear that Wade did it lately. And I know that Caitlin and Seth put together tutorial content about that. There was something to do with you had to have used a shortcut in the past for this to be a good thing for you. So if you want to know more about that, maybe Seth can drop the link about the shortcut. But to me, the email is just fine. Like, I just have a few newsletters in Curated, like different publications, and I have those secret email addresses shared in my Gmail, and off I go. So I can, like, if I check email at 6 o'clock at night on my front porch, go, oh, that would be great for opt-in weekly. I'll push it through, and now it's waiting for me. You can also do this thing that people used to do, which is have an RSS feed. And there's a great video interview with me with Dave Verwer, the founder of Curated, showing his complex RSS feed of him following specific websites and making sure he's notified whenever they have new content. If you are of the RSS feed like mindset, then that would be great for you. I can't personally say that I can tell you a bunch about that, but I can tell you that if someone wants to subscribe to your newsletter when there's a new issue via RSS, they just click that RSS. Like if you enable RSS, then they can see when you've posted something new to your publication site, right? Also, if there are blogs that you know you want to follow, you might have yourself a list that you go look at once an issue, right? And go look at those websites if there is no way to subscribe to their content, but you know that they have historically had things worth curating or collecting and bringing in. The last place I'd send you is social media. And it's not the last place I'll send you. It's a place you probably are at different times of the day. And you can collect links from social media and put them in your newsletter. In fact, it's always kind of interesting when I'm reading someone's newsletter who's saying like, hey, this LinkedIn post like prompted a lot of conversation, right? That like I saw this in LinkedIn, I collected the link. So there are different ways in the different platforms, whether you're on their mobile version or on your desktop, to figure out how to get to that URL. Facebook's a little tricky. If you're in a group, then you're not going to be able to share the link and people see it outside of the group, if that makes sense. So if your newsletter is going to only people in that Facebook group, that's great. But like, try to remember those sorts of things when you just grab a link, because it's going to be different if someone doesn't have access to what you are seeing. So you want to collect things that are public in nature, right? Twitter is great. Like any of those, you need to go in and figure out, okay, how do I capture the link from this Instagram post or this Twitter post and bring it in? And then what is it that I think about this post that is interesting, like makes it interesting enough to put in my newsletter? So if you're doing that, that's wonderful. If you have a team of people that are helping you do that, that's even better. So that, I think, is one of the cool things about Curated, is that you do have the ability to add unlimited users to your account. And we talked yesterday about the advantage of having like someone who is not super tech savvy and you don't want in the software a lot, just giving them a contributor status and teaching them like, here is your secret email address. and then saying, just save this, like helping them save it in their Gmail. If that's all it's going to take, like get them signed up, get them set up. And then all they have to do from that point forward is, oh, I'm going to email this to my friend's curated account because I think it would be great in their newsletter, right? So that's a cool way to let people send you ideas if they are of the status in your life that you can trust them to come into your curated account, because they will have access to the ability to type and change content in the newsletter. So they need to be that level. If they're not that level, tell them to just email you things, right? So like there's a difference between the person who fits in this bucket and the person who fits in that one, right? But maybe they're a teammate who like works in your company and it's totally great for them to have access to that. Go for it, right? So you make the distinctions between who you know who is just email, contributor, admin, and owner in your life, and put them on your team. But the cool thing about that is, and Scott Rogerson references this frequently with the Up Content newsletter, is that the content that they're bringing in and choosing for their newsletter is coming from across the organization. So it's not just marketers, it's developers, et cetera. And so it's kind of causing a bit of mind share across the organization about what it is that the person they're serving wants. So that's really great if it's a marketing newsletter about the industry you're serving. But that could also work if you were doing a bundled newsletter with friends, and you just had like an editorial bundled newsletter that is like 5 people who think differently, or 2 people who, 5 people who think the same, or 2 people who think differently. You could have like a Republican Democrat like face off kind of newsletter, right? And you have these 2 people sending in their ideas and then like owning the different sections of the newsletter. So you can get creative with who you are team building the newsletter with. I would say have friends help, have teammates help, have anyone help who is like, I think one of my skill sets in life is not public speaking. I'm hoping I'm proving myself wrong by doing this right now, but my skill set in life, I feel like the true skill is strategically connecting people and strategically connecting people with ideas, right? So I'm not the news, like I'm capable of talking about newsletters in a pseudo expert way because I have talked to a lot of experts, right? And because I curate information from a lot of experts. So I may know more than some people in this room, but I know way less than a lot of the people I asked to be speakers at this event. So I see a newsletter curator's role very similar to that, right? And that's why it jives with me pretty well, because I'm like, oh, well, I know how to read something and think, yeah, that's really brilliant, or that's stupid. I don't agree with that, right? So one thing that you want to do as a curator is start holding yourself to some standards. One of those Hung Lee talked about when we did our interview, and that was that he doesn't want in his HR, it's like a recruiting email newsletter called Recruiting Brain Food. He doesn't want the same news that they've gotten in all the other recruiting news that goes out throughout the week. So he wants to make sure that he's curating from sources that people don't normally see. And that's what some of that keyword searching can do for you, or the Google alerts, is to kind of turn you on to new sources of information. So what I like to do is think of myself as having the job of being as discerning as possible as I can when I'm putting together a newsletter. And I think that some of the best curated newsletters are followed by thousands because the readers of that newsletter trust the opinion of the creator because they have earned it by sending them information that has helped them week after week, or whatever cadence, fortnightly or monthly, that they have. So I'm going to share with you right now. Thank you, Ian. I appreciate that. Let's talk treasure later. All right. I'm going to share right now. I've got it mocked up, And my husband might walk in the house too. The kids are getting home from school. All right, what screen are you seeing?
Seeing your my.curated.co draft issue.
Perfect.
Yep.
Okay, this is the issue I didn't publish this week because I was busy with Newsletter Fest. And I thought I might put out an issue tomorrow, but I've rethunk that thought. Is that how I should say that? I'm exhausted. We will be okay and put out an issue next week on our regular day, Thursday. But I just want to give you a quick look at how this might happen on typically on Wednesday, maybe on Tuesday. Is I have links that I've collected. Some of these are old because I have not been through my my Google alerts this week. But what I will do is bring in some links, and I'm trying to find some different categories, or I might push them into a category when they're in. Some of these are going to be newsletter tips. Some of them are going to be other categories. All right, so we've kind of filled this up. With content, right? And you could be one of the people who does this process that I'm about to show you somewhere else and already knows exactly which links they want to use by the time they get here. And you could just import all. But I am not that person. And what I'm excited about this session for is that I am going to learn some things I still do not know about this product that I think could be very helpful to me. All right, so if you have some in unassigned, one really cool thing that I forgot to demonstrate the other day is that you don't necessarily have to go in and open them to assign them. You can just slide them, right? So I'm just going to pretend I know for sure that these are newsletter tips, right? So I've got one more unassigned. We're gonna this one, sorry, this one's not what you call it. The category isn't already in here, so I'm gonna pop it down into it. I'm gonna say that one is opt-in challenge. So those were all my categories. If you haven't been to one of our sessions or seen the category explanation, just quickly, you can build out categories for your newsletter in the settings section. And then you give those categories an order. So they are like the backbone of your newsletter. And these categories appear if you have curated content in those categories in the newsletter, right? They do not appear if you did not put anything in that category. So I'm missing some categories right now. And this happens when you have embedded links, which I think sometimes happens if I send it via email. Like it'll grab a really long link from whoever else sent it to me, like with a really long UTM parameter or something. But now we've got some content in here. We do have some pictures and some without, because I think most of this was done before the release of the new image grabber that we're all super excited about. So when you go right now to grab an image, let's do this newsletter, which is nominated for one of the best newsletters. So if I was going to curate this to my newsletter from the Chrome extension, opt-in weekly, then I would see her social share image pop up. This is what popped up, but because I'm between two monitors, it went to the other screen. And I would say, yeah, that's cool. And I want this to be in the, I don't know, curated news section, just because I'm not being exactly right with what I'm doing right now. I'm just trying to give you a demonstration. So that's a quick way to get that in here. And here it is. Import it. Now it's in the newsletter, and suddenly the curated news section has appeared. Make sense? All right, so then what I do is I fill this. You see where it says 12 of 10? So we're suggesting that 10 organic items is probably a good number. Some people don't use images and they go with far more than that. Some people go with less than that. What's interesting is you have organic is this green leaf. And then if you are using sponsorships, you will have a little business briefcase here that shows you how many sponsorships you have. So you can set up sponsorships and you will get like a similar thing going on, which I really need to learn more about how the sponsorship stuff works too. I know that Seth was making some videos, but what I do, say I have 4 newsletter tips, I might decide that I'm really only going to use, let's pretend this is the prologue and delete this one so that I've got something going on. Okay, so I've got 3 stories in this section. So what I do is I go, 3 stories. Do you know what? People are probably going to enjoy this one the most. Like that's going to be the headline that people are most excited about. And I want to just have like maybe 2 in this section. I usually do like 2 to 3, but if I'm doing 3, they need to all be amazing. So I might go and look at these stories and try to decide if they're really worth being in the newsletter. And there's nothing wrong with saying like, well, it's good, but it's not like, I think it might be too much for this issue. There's nothing wrong with holding it for the next issue. So I'm demonstrating right now what I would do if I was like, the other 2 are stronger, I'm going to hold this. One other idea that I had along the way is that if that 3rd story that wasn't quite strong enough to stand on its own kind of had something to do with one of the other 2, I would add in related at the bottom of the body copy and just bring in that link right there as a embedded link instead. So just popping that at the bottom of whatever I had put and then adding that story just as a like less significant in terms of visual priority story, but that shows like if you want to get down a rabbit hole in this topic, here's a related story that goes along with that. So I do that for every section and I'm really hard on myself. Like, does this belong in this issue? Is this the best I can do? And if there's not something worth putting in a category, I just don't have that category. It's that simple. Like to me, it's not worth using something if it's not actually the best quality content I could be sending someone. So I'll go in, I'll reorder them. I even have a thing going on with publishing right now, which we have discovered may or may not be like looking at the summary report. I'm not sure if it's the direction I'm going to keep going, but in that one, it's almost like it's a newsletter within a newsletter and it's just a list of links. So I go in and I put the publishing links in the order I want them to be in that list of links. And then I create a text item, pop it at the top of publishing and start doing a copy paste job. I will tell you something that I did learn that was painful is that if you by chance end up opening 2 sections of copy to edit something, like say I wanted to make this a related under this one, if you do that, but you save this one first instead of this one, like if you hit save on this one, then you are going to lose whatever changes you made to the other one. So that's my big warning to people is if you have 2 open, save the one that you want to save the content of first. Like I would advise no one to have both of these open if you're actually trying to save changes in both of them at the same time. Like I would, if I was making this one the related, like grabbing the link and popping it in here, then I would save this one first because whatever I did in the other one is going to be gone. So then we have our other sections, and that is basically what I do. I go from probably 20 to 25 down to 10 to 15 items on a weekly basis, going over and over it and saying like, that's too much. Like that's not worth putting in. And there's an interesting thing with Curated that I want to show you. And that is that if you accidentally hit the trash can, which is destroy, you're going to get prompted like, are you sure? And that's when you get the chance to say, no, I might want to save it instead and remove it from this issue. So any questions about this before we move into showing you some more advanced ways to set up link collecting across some different platforms and connecting those to Curated?
Nothing's popped up in chat yet, but if you have any questions now that Ashley is done showing off that stuff, then feel free to drop it in chat, and we'll be able to wrap back around to it. Or if Ashley just wants to interrupt me in this next section to answer that, she can absolutely do that.
Me interrupt somebody? What? Okay, so the last thing I will leave you with is I have shown you my flow. That is not to say that it is the best flow. It is my workflow. It is me having got into this software and figured out a thing that works, but I want to improve that workflow, right? Like that should always be our intention, is to continue to improve our workflows so that we are more efficient. Because right now I would say that I spend like somewhere in the, I don't know, 4 to 8 hour zone on a newsletter, because I'm adding in like my personally written prologue. That takes up some time, but sometimes that comes out quickly. And then I'm decision making and I'm deciding what to write about. So I'd love to reduce that. I'd love to get someone from Delegated, which I am told I'm going to be able to get next week. I'm going to get someone to help a little with some of that early link grabbing, so that then I'm doing more of the decision making instead of all of the bringing things in. All right, I'm handing it off to Seth, who's going to tell us how to get way more advanced than little old me.
All righty. Okay, so I'm sharing my screen. Are you seeing scissors or sword?
I see scissors and sword.
Ah, okay. So this is not the tab I'm starting on. We'll get to that later. Maybe that's a teaser. Maybe that can be, what is that about? Okay, so so I'm going to show off a few of the more advanced ways to set up maybe some automated way to bring in links. First thing I'll show real quick is Ashley was mentioning that secret email. So if you're wondering where your secret email is for your account, you would just go to your my.curated.co page, go to collected items, and then click on this learn how link. And then you'll be able to see down here, this is where your secret email is. And then whatever email provider you're using, just plug that in as a contact with the name of whatever that publication is. And then when you're emailing a link to that, as Ashley does, you can easily enter the publication name. Super easy. Okay, now moving on to the next one, which is setting up the Slack integration so that you can grab a link that's sent in Slack and put it in your publication. So to do that, you'll just go to your settings. You'll scroll all the way down to the integrations section here and click on Slack. And now that you're on Slack, you'll add to Slack right here. And note that if you have multiple curated publications, you'll need to collect each one to Slack individually. And you'll see that you can connect multiple curated publications to one Slack. And that's what I'm about to show off right now. So I'll click add to Slack. It'll take me to Slack and it'll ask if it's okay to connect it with the Newsletter Fest Slack. And I'll go ahead and allow that. And great, so now that's all good. And then we have the option to make it hidden or public. When we collect a link, this won't send a notification to people. It'll just have a little notification saying, hey, someone collected a link. So I'll make it public so that people who are part of the Newsletter Fest Slack can see it. So I'll save that there. And then I'm going to bring over the Slack client right here. Can you see that?
Yep.
Okay, great. All right. And here we are. And looks like the most latest issue that was sent in your latest issue section was by Amy Lewin. So I will save that. We'll go to the 3 dots right here. We'll click collect link, which will now be here. If you just set it up and you already had Slack open and you don't see it, just close out Slack, completely quit out, reopen it, and you should see it. We'll click collect link, and then it'll ask us which publication would you like to save the link to?
We do not see that.
Oh, do you not see this little message right here?
Where? Does anybody else see it?
It should say
Is
curated.
it a pop-up?
It's just at the most recent message in the Slack. Do you see the Slack?
No. We see the Slack.
Interesting.
But we do not see a recent message. Caitlin,
Okay,
do you think that pops up somewhere else?
Well, it said it, so it's only visible to me, but you'll be able to see it once I choose. So it just gives you a little option to choose which publication that you want to save it to. So it's just click and then you choose it. It'll do a little pop-up box that's very similar to Curated whenever you're saving it through a Chrome extension or anything like that, that you can assign to a category. I'm not sure if you can see that, but if you can't,
we think you're frozen.
Oh, am I frozen?
Yes, we think you're frozen.
It happened again. Okay,
she said tab out of Slack to see if you're frozen.
Okay, I'm moving. I've moved Slack over and I'm going to a different tab. I went to Zaps. Can you see Zaps now?
No.
Oh man, this happened again.
Just stop your screen share. Yeah. It's all good. It's just we're asking so much of your computer right now. His computer is hosting and recording and sending to YouTube possibly and doing this. So we're all going to chill about it. Try to screen share again and see if it refreshes. And if not, just, coach me through what to do while you
Alrighty.
Do your thing.
Okay. So I'm now sharing. Do you see Slack or is it a black screen?
It's a black screen.
Yeah. I feel like that's how it goes is it freezes and then I try again and then it's black screen,
Okay. All right. So what should I do
I'm
make
just going
the circle complete?
Yeah. Let me send you a screenshot on Slack of what it's going to look like. And then you could just show that in your screen share. So I'm stopping my share.
I did see something happen in your latest issue that is going to freak Amy Lewin out. It says Seth collected a link to Newsletter Fest.
Oh yeah, you can show that off. Mm-hmm.
All right, so I'll screen share my Slack real quick. Do you guys see this? Y'all can see that?
I can see that. Yeah. So since I made it public, it'll be able to show that I've saved that to my Curated newsletter. So say you're part of a team and it's your team Slack. That way you'll be able to just notify your other team members that, someone's already collected this link to our newsletter. One thing to note is in the current stage that it's in, if you could screen share one more time, Ashley.
I was going to the other desktop. Wait, hold on.
Sorry.
That's okay.
So as you'll notice, so for Amy's link, you can see that it's expanded. There's a way to make it not expand in Slack by clicking an X when you send the message. If it's not expanded, you cannot save it through this way. If you try to save it with the way I showed you, then Curated will say, oh, we don't see a link. So it needs to be expanded. An easy way to know if it'll be saved is by looking for that little gray line to the left of, see right there. And then also beside the link that she sent.
Yeah.
So if it's like that, then you'll be able to save it to Curated. Right now, we have an update that we're working on right now so that it'll be able to save links that are collapsed or not expanded. But we're still testing that. So right now, just make sure that it's expanded.
Okay, so I have an idea. Sorry. Do you want to restart and shift to Wade or Calvin?
Sure.
And we can see if your computer, did you restart before this session?
No, I did not. That could be
Okay,
an issue. Yeah.
that might
Okay.
be. All right, so I'm going to stop the screen share. So that is collecting links via Slack. Let's go to Calvin if you're ready, Calvin, and then Seth. Do you want to switch hosts back to me
Mhm.
so that we just continue recording? I think it'll just be one recording at the end because of that.
Mhm.
We're getting smart, y'all. We're learning Zoom's ways.
All right. You're
Here.
now host.
Battling it. Okay. So that's Slack. Next comes Feedly, correct?
Yes, and you'll need to unmute Calvin because he's not cool enough to unmute, he says.
But he can just think it, right?
Okay, I'm going to try to restart. I will hopefully see you on the other side.
Okay.
I can also handle the part that Seth was going to do because he talked me through it, reminded me to come to this meeting,
Excellent.
all that kind of stuff. So,
For people who don't know, Calvin is Seth's older brother.
that's my official title here at Curated. I'll follow Seth's original idea. How about that? I'll start with Pocket. That's what he was going to do next. And then I'll do Feedly.
Okay.
All right. And I think there might be a slight
You
delay.
sure?
So if somebody starts talking and I don't listen, it's because I think there's a slight delay. We're doing our best. All right. Here comes a screen share. All right. So starting with Pocket. I don't remember the last time I used Pocket, but it looks like I saved a lot of links about food and pizza. So we'll start there. Pocket is one of those reader apps. It's pretty popular still, I think. And it's a good way to do triage. They do have a recommendations kind of engine behind it. Once you start pulling in a few links, saving them however you want to in Pocket, it gets smart and starts recommending some other content for you. So if you're kind of starting out in a certain niche and trying to expand your sources, so it's not just your newsletter full of 8 New York Times articles every week that someone else could just subscribe to New York Times and read, you can use Pocket to figure out where other people are writing about the stuff you want to talk about. Once you have it set up and configured, you can pass along your favorite articles to Curated. Ashley puts a lot more in Curated than I've ever really attempted to, with upwards of 70 links and stuff like that. Sometimes that feels overwhelming and I want to do my triage somewhere else. So a tool like Pocket or Feedly is useful for that. The way to hook up Feedly and Pocket to Curated right now is to use Zapier. If you're in marketing of any kind, you're probably familiar with Zapier. It's one of the OGs of kind of the no-code style app where you click a bunch of buttons and it does all the API magic for you. So you don't have to understand how to use an API to hook up your favorite products. With Zapier, I have one configured already for Feedly. To make one for Pocket, it's pretty straightforward. We have a few options for how you can create a Zap really fast in your settings. If you scroll down to integrations and API key, scroll real fast and my screenshots my API key. But we can just click use this Zap for a lot of the really popular ones. Feedly's on there, Pocket's on there. You just click use this Zap and it's got most of the options selected for you already. Or you can be fancy and build it yourself. I don't have Pocket hooked up to this particular Zapier account, but we'll go through Feedly. It works almost exactly the same way. You're just mapping fields. So there's Seth. Hi, Seth. I'm doing Pocket now, so you can check that off your agenda. And I'm bored of talking about Pocket, so now we're going to talk about Feedly. I've set up a kind of test feed here, the fancy feed. We've got opt-in weekly because your curated publication comes with its own RSS feed, in case you didn't know. So you can instruct your loyal readers to drop your newsletter into their RSS reader, whatever that is. You get to that. You can do a support article here by putting issues.rss at the end of your publication URL. So I dropped in opt-in weekly. I've got a Zap set up right now that anything that I bookmark goes from Feedly directly into my collected links. Theoretically, you could set up Feedly to pull in everything within a particular feed. If you'll notice, The Verge here has 991 items. I don't think that you should set that particular Zap up because you'll be really sad. Because now you've got 991 items in your Feedly and in your curated collected items. And as an inbox zero person, that sounds like a personal hell. So don't do that and just set it up to only pull in the ones you favorite. So I've got Zapier already hooked up. I'll go through that in a second. Let's bookmark this depressing article about climate change. So I'm gonna bookmark that and go back to my demo account here. Collected items, it's already there. Zapier has different kinds of Zaps. Some are instant. This is an example of an instant one, obviously. There are others that poll for changes and only run every 15 minutes. I think if you pay for Zapier, you can make some of those instant. But right now I'm doing all this with a free Zapier account. It's a paid Feedly account because they started doing that a few years ago. But yeah, so it's really fast. It pulled in what I told it to pull in. So now we'll look at how that Zap is actually constructed, and you can see what your options are. So here I am logged into Zapier. I've got the saved Feedly articles to curated, instant Zap. Look at the details here. Pop it open, the editor. So when I build this out, Feedly is the trigger app, meaning something happens in Feedly to initiate something happening in Curated. So it asked me to log in to Feedly and say which particular feed I wanted to poll for that save change. So chose Feedly, connected it to my account, and then it allows you to test it. Here's an article it found that was favorited. That all looks good. The next step is to define your action. So what happens in the target app from the trigger app? So I hooked it up to Curated, and from the optional actions here, I chose add a new collected link and do some other stuff with Zapier and like syncing subscribers and stuff, but we're talking about links. So add new collected link. Something to note when you are connecting Curated, you need to get your Zapier API key. There are a couple different API keys in Curated. This page that I got to by going to Settings, Integrations, and API key has your API key for Zapier clearly labeled. Copy paste that one. Earlier today, I copied and pasted the wrong one. Nothing bad happens, it just doesn't work. So going back to the Zap. So yeah, so I want to collect a link, choose the account, Curated, and the publication. So demo. Now this is where you start mapping the fields. So these are fields that come from Feedly, and they need to be mapped to something inside of Curated, right? So URL, that's pretty obvious, title. Now for the description, if you wanted to, depending on the source app, like what they're allowing you to scrape, you can pull in more. That these are like your defaults. If you click show all options, this shows me all the data that I can potentially pull from the source app. So don't want to pull HTML, but I could pull the summary of the article, which is here. Article summary, no HTML, optional. What that means is if they've defined some sort of summary, like what would show up on social share, like if you shared a link to that article, it's usually just a couple sentences, and that can be handy to remind you, especially when you start automating stuff, how something got in there and what it's about. Because if you saved it and that instantly goes in to your Curated account, you may not have read it yet. So that's kind of hit or miss because the source app doesn't have to include that kind of thing, but usually worth having it in there. You can also pull in an image if you want, the cover image, same kind of thing, different words. It's a social share image. That's what we call it in Curated land. So map all those things, you test it, turn it on, and you're done. And all of those links that you're favoriting in Pocket or favoriting in Feedly are now going to make it to your collected items where you can do what you want to do. I think that covers the part I was supposed to cover. I don't know anything about up content, so I'm going to throw back to Seth for that.
All right, let's test Seth's connection and everything now. Little note, if you're looking for like a free version, Pocket. Oh, I gotta unmute Seth. Are you screen sharing, Calvin? Okay, Seth is screen sharing his notes, and so I cannot get to him to unmute him. So please stop screen sharing. Okay. Now.
Okay, I'm back. Can you hear me?
Sorry, I forgot what power I have over people not being able to talk.
All righty. Okay, let's share. All right. Are you seeing the screen?
Yep, we got it.
Okay, I'm going to go very slow so I don't trip up Zoom. Oh, that's the name of the app. Okay. All right. So we're going to talk about Up Content. So Up Content is a great app that Scott Rogerson is the CEO of. He had a great talk earlier this week. Would encourage you to go check it out. But what Up Content does is you enter topics that you're interested in, and then it'll go find articles that are related to those topics for you. And as you can see here, this is my topics section. I have one topic that's just newsletters. You can make those topics more granular by adding in certain keywords. It's a really great tool. And through Zapier, we have a way to connect that to your Curated account. So whenever you find an article and you add it to your collection, which is similar to Feedly, saving it for later, bookmarking it like Calvin did, then it will add it to your curated publication. So for example, let's say we want to add this article to our collection. If we wanted to read it, we could just click on it and it'll even pull open the article to the right there. So you don't even have to go to another page, which is nice. And then when you're ready to add it to your collection, you'll click the plus sign right here. You'll send the one suggestion to collection, and then your collections will pop up. Depending on what price tier you're on, you'll have a different amount of collections that you can create. This is their entry price tier, so I have access to one collection. So I will just click the curated collection that I have set here, and I'll send it to that collection. So it's adding it. It takes a second, and then I can click go to that collection to make sure that it's been carried over. And yep, there it is. Is my screen following? Can you see the collection sign now?
No.
Is it so?
Oh, wait. Are you still in up content?
I'm still in it. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Okay. Cool. All right. Now I'm going to switch over to Zapier, and this will be quicker. This since Calvin kind of gave you the intro to what Zapier does. So I'll go to make a new Zap. And now that I'm on the Zap creation screen, we'll enter our app event, which is up content. So we'll enter them there. We'll choose the trigger event, which is article added to collection. That's the one option we have. We'll continue. It'll ask us to sign into up content. It pulls open a new window here for me. If you can't see it, that's fine. I'm just entering my login information. And then
that's actually a free tier of up content, right? For one topic.
So in order to have a collection, which you'll need for this, you'll actually have to be on the the entry tier. Yeah. The free tier allows you a topic, but not a collection.
Okay. So guys, that's like $13.50 a month, but that gets you one collection and 10 topics. Just for clarity, if you are at all thinking about all of these different things, or you're already on one or whatever.
Yeah. So now it'll ask us to set up the trigger. So we just select the account that we just associated with it. So we'll highlight that. That's good to go. We'll choose our collection. So if you have multiple collections set up, you just choose which one you want the Zap to be associated with. So I'll choose the curated one, and we'll continue. And now that's good to go. I always like to test the trigger just to make sure that things are working. And yep, it found that article that we just put in that collection just a second ago. So now that's good to go. We'll click continue, and now we'll set up curated. So I'll be a little bit quicker with this one since Calvin showed you how to do it. So we'll add the new collected link. We'll continue. It'll ask me to sign into curated. So this is the same thing that Calvin was saying, where you're going to find your API key. This is another page that you can find that API key, which is just on your account page. You can scroll down.
Heads up, we're not seeing the other page you went to, so we're still in Zapier. So if you want to just go grab the thing you need,
gotcha.
Everybody remember that it's at the bottom of the API page, but it's the Zapier API key, not the Zapier regular one.
Yeah. All right, continuing on. Once you enter your Zapier key, it'll take a second to verify it. You don't have a slow internet. It just takes a little bit to go. I'm progressing through the Zap page. Is it updating, or am I frozen again? So
Seriously?
you should see setup action. There should be publication.
No,
URL,
you got
nothing.
frozen again.
Oh, dang. Well, I got through, I think, most of the stuff. Calvin showed off the other sections. One important thing to note is in that there's that one section that Calvin mentioned with the URL that whatever app you're connecting it with is grabbing the URL from.
Mm-hmm.
You'll want to choose source URL. And this is specifically for up content. You'll want to choose source URL so that it's grabbing that URL from the original article, because the way the up content works is it'll actually, the first initial link will be that it'll go to up content, and then it'll send you to the original source URL. So you'll want to make sure that you're grabbing that source URL so that when it's passed to curated, that that source URL is showing and it's not showing an up content link.
Perfect. Mm-hmm. All right. So we've had 3 that we've lined up. Now, one thing I will say is that if you have a paid Feedly, you can, the Google Alerts gives you an RSS feed, but you have to have a paid Feedly to pump that RSS feed into Feedly. It won't let you like bypass Google Alerts in that way. Does that make sense for everybody? So these are all different ways you could go about finding links. And I don't know as much about it as I maybe would like to, but I feel like Up Content has been doing some things where they're bringing in social as well. So you could be getting a different variety mix of things going on. But right now we are going to pass it over to Wade Sellers, who I've just asked to unmute because I'm getting smarter about things and remembering I have to do things when I'm the host, because poor Seth is used to being the host and I'm not. But Wade, we met a year ago almost when
I think it is.
Yesterday was my 1-day anniversary, by the way, at Simple Focus. And I'm like coming in and like, oh, I've got to look at all these different SaaS brands and figure out like who loves it and does this and that. And Calvin's like, well, I got this email from this guy. And he is going to do a webinar where he's teaching people how to use Bubble Up and Curated together. And I was like, well, that's great. I'm not having to pay for that at all. Like, that's not coming out of the marketing budget. That's just awesome. User-generated content. And so that's how we met Wade, who is an unlimited source of energy. And actually, because of the work he was doing for Bubble Up at that time, is now their product marketing manager. Is that your title at this moment? And so he is about to demonstrate how he uses Bubble Up and Curated together for his newsletter. It's not the 1-hour version. If you want that, he can drop a link to that video in the chat where he did a webinar and showed the whole thing. Oh, you muted yourself again.
Okay,
don't do
back
it.
On. Cool. I didn't know it's a one way. Okay. Okay. I self-demoted myself.
But he is now going to screen share and show us Bubble Up, which will remind you a little bit of Pinterest, but cooler in different ways.
Okay, so you see Apps Weekly?
We do.
We do.
Okay, cool. Sweet. So I'm just gonna give a quick demo. Yeah, basically I was reading Dave Verwer's iOS Dev Weekly. I'm an iOS developer by trade. And eventually I was like, I kind of want to make one of these newsletters. How does he make his? Scrolled down to the bottom, found the Curated logo, went into it, and only learned later that it was like his thing. And I was like, oh, well, that's handy. Okay. So I created one called Apps Weekly, which is all about app news and such. And while doing this, I work for a company. It's an app platform called Bubble Up, and it's kind of like sexy cloud storage. And I started using Bubble Up, or I was using Bubble Up to like kind of curate app news information that I come across in my day. Basically, I run through a week, and I'm always Googling stuff about apps and trying new apps, learning new news about them. I just geek out about this stuff. And then I put them in a little newsletter and be like, here's the new news from the app world that you might not know about. So I want to show you kind of like how I curate. Let me hide that window. I'm going to show you how I curate my newsletter, and I kind of do a different process. I can't get the little Zoom thing to hide. Okay. the little bars.
Yeah, you just have to like grab a black section of it and chuck it somewhere.
And chuck it. It wants to highlight everywhere. I'm scared to chuck anything. Okay. All right. I'm just going to slide that down there where I don't think I need the screen. All right, cool. So this is just the Bubble Up homepage. And then this is Bubble Up. And in here, you just basically create folders. One of my folders is called Apps Weekly. I go into that. And then this is where it starts to get a little messy. But then if you go into my research, I have folders, and each folder represents a folder of an issue of my newsletter. So we're currently on issue 26. So if I go into issue 26, so far, these are the 3 stories that I've come across this week that I think are cool, or apps I've tried, and yada, yada. And I use this as like my dump it all in one spot, then figure out what goes into the newsletter later. A couple reasons. One, I like the Pinteresty feel of it. I like the card kind of design. It helps give me some ideas. I also am very familiar with how I get things into Bubble Up using, basically, if you see that share button on your phone anywhere, like on iOS or Android, once you have the app installed, you can just drop things quickly into Bubble Up. And then also another way is, I'm just going to show quickly on desktop. So how do I get things in the Bubble Up all week using all the devices? I basically go into, let's say I'm Googling and I come across a link for this Avatarify app, which honestly is a crazy app that you can do like deep fake clones, and it looks pretty legitimately real. But this is one that has like controversy because it's a Russian company and it grabs a lot of information off of your phone, and people are like, whoa, what's going on here? So anyways, I tried this one out and it's hilarious. So if I wanted to stick this in the Bubble Up, just like Curated has, Bubble Up has a Chrome extension too. And then it gives you this little thing at the bottom called the nano bar. All I got to do is I just click save, and then it pops up with like your last kind of folders and such that you were using. You get a title and description. Think about this potentially if you were doing this is like, if I kind of knew a title that I might put in Curated, or my take is usually how I do this. So this one would potentially be an app recommendation. I might think about what I might put in my Curated newsletter on the spot and punch it in here real quick as like note taking. And then I'll do browse folders. I would just go to Apps Weekly, issue 26, and save. And then just for future reference, once I did that once, if I went into the nano bar again and like stored this, that folder actually like appears as a recent, which is super convenient as you go through the week. Okay, so like I stuck that into Bubble Up. And then if I enter my Bubble Up and go to my folder, you'll see it just popped up right here. So like I go through the week, and then it's like, okay, time to sit down and make my issue. I don't necessarily make my issues multiple weeks out. I kind of make them on the spot and I send them immediately. I like the instant gratification of sending my newsletter like the moment I've created it, which means I get spelling mistakes and fun stuff like that because I don't take the time to run through it, but it's supposed to be personal and it feels personal. So I'll end up in Bubble Up. This is kind of like where I start. And real quick, here's issue 26 in Curated. I don't have any links over on the left-hand side, and that's on purpose. I don't put my links in there until I'm ready to use them. So I'll go through issue 26 and I'll pop open the folder and be like, okay, let's see. This one, okay, so here is the Avatarify link. And I'll go in here and be like, yeah, okay, I wanna start out my Curated with the Avatarify app link. And if you were to open this up on your phone from a Curated email, it would go into the App Store because of this link right here. And Apple's just smart about it if you're on your iPhone. So at this point, I'm still in Chrome. And this is where I'll start to use the Curated bookmarklet. I'll do collect item. It pops up. Guys, I love that this image here, this is such a handy add-on to this bookmarklet, I must say, because I would always go and I would grab a screenshot and paste it in and do all that. So here, I'll punch it in here. I might do my comments here. I usually pick my category. This one will be my app recommendation. Oftentimes, I just do original aspect ratio, and it seems to work almost every time. I do save, and then I'll just go back to Bubble Up, and I'll run through it. And maybe I find that like I don't want this one in there, but I do want this one. This Luminate thing is a trip. If you have an iPhone, you really should check this thing out. It uses the flashlight to shoot lights into your eyes with your eyes closed when the dark room, and it gives you like a trippy experience. It's really neat. Anyways, I go into Curated, I reload. Once I'm done with my Bubble Up, they all pop up in here, and then I just do import all, and then they all pop over into my issue. And this is where I start writing my issue and sending it off. That's my workflow. I honestly love it. It's 26 issues in. I've basically done this all 26. I've given talks about it. Other people have used it. It seems to work. But this is like my way because it gives me this nice visualization in Bubble Up. Mm-hmm. And this isn't a sales pitch. I mean, I guess I am pitching it and I do work for them. That's cool. But honestly, this was kind of like the thing that got me was I see like if I go back one issue, you'll see like I only put like 4 or 5 links in. But like this week, I had about I don't know, 12, 13 in there. And I get to run through them quickly and see them in this nice little way, and then put them up into Curated. And it just seems to marry them together in a really nice experience for me. That's what I wanted to show you.
Thank you. I love that we have demonstrated some different workflows. People's brains work in different ways. People prefer to digest information in different ways. I am also a visual person and interested in making my workflow more visual. I think it also teaches us what things we may do down the line just within Curated itself, so that if someone did have 70 links in there, they could process them more easily. And we have, I think, some people on staff who have ideas about that in the backlog. So that is how you use Bubble Up. It's how you use Feedly, how you use Pocket. Remember, with Feedly and Pocket, that's like a if you favorite it kind of thing, then it flows in. So you want to go pick websites that you want to hear from or sources that you want to hear from and have them funnel in. Bubble Up and Curated Chrome extension are going to be more of a you found a thing along the way and you sent it there. Wade, don't you like Google apps or something? Yeah, he muted himself. So don't you like use Google and News, like the Google News functionality to kind of keep up with new app releases?
I do. Honestly, it's the easiest way. I'm so lazy, but it works. Like I go into Google, I type in apps or iOS apps or Android apps. I hit search and click the news tab. And then a lot of times I go into little search tools and I do sort by most recent. And I just scroll there. And I usually get like the interesting bit. The other thing, I didn't show it, it's just like an accessory feature, but if you stick things into a Bubble Up folder, if you scroll down, it looks at the metadata of all the stuff you stuck into it, and it will suggest other things. So sometimes I'll stick things in the Bubble Up, and then I just scroll down and it shows you like suggested content, and I find things that way as well.
Awesome. So it surfaces.
It's just like another content aggregator. Yeah.
Cool. All right. So Seth, was there anything beyond that? I know we wanted to mention that we do have some Zaps that connect things like Twitter. And earlier today, Sean, I wanted to mention that if you get into the mode where you think you want to do like an onboarding sequence or something, you could always try to use, I think you have Integrately to connect Curated with Moosend. Like you can connect it with another sender if you were trying to use more of an automated email nurture system or something to accompany what you've got going on. So Seth, anything else? Already set up a Zap, but just realized you're set up with Integrately. Oh, yeah. Yeah, sorry. Forgot to mention that. You do have Integrately as an option. If I know that we were in talks with them about building things out, but I don't know what the status is on everything they have. Seth has dropped a link to Curated users that will take you to the page of Zapier templates that work with Curated. I'm excited about starting to use the Slack functionality more often. And I'm also excited about like kind of training a team of people to help curate links for me or with me. Maybe with me is the word I should use when I ask them to help out with that. All right. Well, I think that's all I've got to say. Are there questions waiting to be answered, or are there any questions that people have that they would like to ask? Caitlin just added an API key. We went about 15 minutes over, so you're not going to hurt my feelings if you don't have questions. I just want to make sure I'm here for you. And when I say I'm here for you, I kind of mean that Seth and Caitlin and Calvin are here for you because they probably know the answer better than me. But I learned a lot tonight.
I don't have some, but one thing is, since we're doing advanced link sharing, the setting up the shortcut and then the shortcut into Curated and then having that in the share button is already super cool. I kind of want to try and stump Curated. This is what I did with Bubble Up because you can share it in the Bubble Up there too. is I want to see what else I can hit the share button to and throw into Curated and like see how you like take care of it, stuff like that. So
Oh.
that's cool.
All right. Well, do that whenever you want to. I know that this week is kind of stressful for us if you don't want us.
Oh, no, not like that. But
I'm
like a lot of
joking.
times, like I'll be like in an article, like in Apple News, and I'm like, oh, cool, share button. Hey, I can save that into Curated now. So I'm gonna kind of like see like what
I'm
else,
excited too.
where
Yeah,
you can throw things in from.
We'll have to see if they can get me set up. If I haven't set up shortcuts before, I have a feeling I'm not going to be in that camp. But I feel like the people who will get the most use out of it are the people who already have those kinds of shortcuts set up. All right. Anything else? Sean wants to reach out via Slack to set up Google Analytics. There is a video about that, Sean. And Seth, I think, set that up for a few of our accounts recently and would be a good resource for that.
Yeah,
right?
there's the new GA4, which is a whole fun thing to mess around with because sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. So, but yeah, feel free to message me and I'll do what I can to help you out with that.
I would advise Monday, maybe Wednesday. I have asked a lot of Seth's time this week, but we will get you going as soon as we can. All right. Anybody else with any questions? He said it can wait till next week at the earliest. It's not pressing. Thanks. I am so glad that everyone has been attending these sessions. I know they have been small, but that was our hope, right? Like we wanted to get recorded some things where we are explaining and helping people. And we are so committed to your success, and you bring in questions that sometimes we haven't even thought about yet. And that helps us. And then, something that I can share, like, hey, all you have to do to make the body copy block bigger is drag this. Like, basically, anytime I have a moment where I'm like, oh, duh, like, I can't believe I didn't figure that out. Now I'm going to start recording that and being like, hey, does anybody else relate to this? And we can have like a software therapy group of some sort. All right. Well, I think that is all the talking I have left in me. I went out to eat with my husband last night and he was like, I'm talking, but you're just not like talking back to me. Like you're not like, I would be like, I'd be like, just keep on talking. I just want to hear somebody else talk. That's not me. So I'm annoying myself at this point. You have been great. Goodbye.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye. Thank you, Wade. Thank you. Thank you, Miriam.